بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما والحمد لله على كل حال يا رب صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. We had studied this ayat last week. ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور. Inshallah, we'll just continue from here and just recap some of the things that we had done. At the beginning of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned to man to reflect on his own creation, on his life, on his death, and how Allah ta'ala has created man to be able to understand that we were created by somebody. We didn't just come into existence ourselves. The stages of life a person goes through: pre-birth, after birth, when he's in the womb of his mother, and all the different stages, and then after birth, from being a small newborn baby all the way until when he becomes a toddler and he begins to grow and he begins to walk and he becomes a teenager, and then he enters into adulthood, and then he reaches his middle age, and then eventually he reaches his old age, and then heads toward his demise. The entire life of a person is, if a person reflects upon it, who's controlling all this and who's providing the provisions and the risk and everything that he needs, the sustenance that he needs to survive, to remain alive, who's providing all of that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing all of that. So again, that should lead a person to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then in the next ayat, Allah ta'ala mentioned that الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا. Allah is the one who created the 7 heavens, one on top of another, in layers, in consistency. And again, we studied the wonders that are contained within the skies and the heavens, the stars, the moon, the Milky Ways, the galaxies, the planets, the solar system, and all of that is in control by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That should reflect, that should encourage man to understand that the creator, there is a creator for all of this. It cannot just happen by itself. And then in the next ayat, Allah Ta'ala mentions, مَا تَرَى فِي خَلْقِ الرَّحْمَنِ مِن تَفَاوُتٍ. After all of this reflection, you will not find any faults in the creation of Rahman Ta'ala. So مَا تَرَى, you will not find, you will not see, فِي خَلْقِ الرَّحْمَنِ, in the creations of the most merciful, مِن تَفَاوُتٍ, any faults or inconsistencies. فَارْجِعِ الْبَصَرِ, so return your vision. Look again another time. هل ترى من فطور. فارجع البصر, so return your vision, look again. هل ترى من فطور, do you see any gaps or rips or any faults? You will not find any. So again, in this ayat, it's Allah uses a singular word, ما ترى, that you do not see, asking us, indicating that you yourself reflect on the creations of Allah Ta'ala. This act of tafakkur and tadabbur, do it yourself individually rather than relying on others, and think of the creations of Allah Ta'ala. Think of how Allah Ta'ala has created, and it should lead you to understand that He is a maker of all these wonderful things and all these great things, and they are made in such a way that there is no fault or any type of inconsistency in there. Tafawut, we studied last week, that is in a mubalagha form, in an exaggerated form, that you will not find any types of, not even the smallest types of faults and inconsistencies in what Allah Ta'ala, the most merciful, the Rahman, has created. So there's never ever been that in the creations of man that there's been technical difficulties, that the sun decided one day not to rise. Ever since it was created, it's always risen on time, on dot, and it's always set on time, on dot. It's always provided us the light that we need, the solar power that we acquire from the sun, the photosynthesis that occurs in the plants. Again, ever since Allah has created it, it's always been functioning as Allah has created. Never ever has there been a fault on error. Similarly, in the moon and the stars that Allah has created, that Allah has placed the different planets, as we studied last week, that all these different planets that Allah has created. And I can recall reading somewhere that Jupiter and Saturn, that had they not been present, Earth would have been hit by many types of meteorites and rocks, but Allah Ta'ala has created them, and a lot of them at times go and hit Jupiter or Saturn, and the Earth is protected thereby by these planets. So again, subhanallah, it's the creation of Allah Ta'ala, how Allah has created these to protect Earth, to protect life on Earth, and there is never been a fault or a technical glitch in what Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has created. Then again, this question might come to mind that we have things like coronavirus, which is more than a technical difficulty. Inshallah, we'll study that today towards the latter part of our lesson. Inshallah, that is not a glitch, or is it a glitch? What is it? That something which is spreading the globe and nobody can stop it. Is it a technical difficulty, an error? Something's gone wrong, and a virus, some form of organisms and some proteins have managed to behave in a unexpected manner that nobody can control them. Inshallah, we'll see that towards the end. Coming back to the ayat, Allah mentions Rahman ke paida kiye hue mein tum koi farq nahi paoge. You will not find any faults in the creations of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. The question that we studied here last week, and then I quickly rushed through it: why is Khalqur Rahman used here? Why does it not say fi khalqillah? That in the creations of Allah Ta'ala, you will not see in the creations of Allah any fault. Why does it use the word Rahman from out of all the qualities, from the 99 sifat of Allah Ta'ala and from the ism Allah of Allah Ta'ala? Why is Rahman used? So one mention was given that to remind us that the one who created us is Ar-Rahman. He is the most merciful to us. He created us and he wants to forgive us. He is very kind and merciful towards us, and he is not one who is harsh, who just wants to punish and throw people into the fire of Jahannam. He is Rahman. He is waiting for people to turn towards him, and even when people are disobedient to him and they do not turn towards him and they do not fulfill his commands, he is still Rahman and merciful, that he still gives them the oxygen to breathe. He still provides them the rain that grows the vegetation and their crops, which gives them food for them to survive. And so Allah is Rahman, the most merciful, and he is the one so the one who's created all of this. He is extremely merciful. And this closeness, it should make the one who refuses Allah Ta'ala to feel ashamed that Allah, despite the fact I don't do sajda to him, I don't even believe in him, and he still provides me everything that I need, all the necessary things, it should make a person feel ashamed and allow him to turn to Allah Ta'ala, the one who has given you everything of favors. Are you going to refuse his request of some obedience? Aren't you embarrassed at your ungratefulness from childhood, from being a baby to, in fact, from being a small fetus in the womb of your mother to our current state that we are now? Allah Ta'ala has looked after us. He's maintained us, and how we had studied in the Tafseer of Surah Al-Fatiha that Allah is Rabbul Alameen. And how we studied in the word Rabb, that Allah Ta'ala is the Rabb of everybody, meaning he is nourishing and providing the necessary things a person requires to reach his peak and to reach his full strength. So Allah is the Rabb who is looking after everything and maintaining everything. And again, it was a unique word, the word Rabb. And Allah is not just my Rabb, Allah is the Rabbul Alameen. He is the Rabb of all the worlds and everything which is contained therein. So that Rabb who is doing all this, and he is also Rahman. Are we going to refuse, and especially when we are the ones who claim Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah? Will we be the ones who refuse to fulfill the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of Hayya ala salah and of Hayya ala falah, and of being righteous and of shunning evil and fulfilling the commands of Allah ta'ala? How ungrateful would that be if we were to do such a thing? Then Allah mentions in the next ayat, فَارْجِعِ الْبَصَرِ هَلْ تَرَى مِنْ فُطُورٍ. So return your vision. هَلْ تَرَى مِنْ فُطُورٍ. Do you see any faults, any rips, any tears, any breakages, any types of inconsistencies in there? You will not find anything. So Allah generalizes these ayat, moving from the skies, which was in the early ayat, to anything. مَا تَرَى فِي خَلْقِ الرَّحْمَنِ, as it was in the previous ayat. Anything that you see, you will not find any faults in the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then there may be some people who try to find faults in the creations of Allah. They may say that we should have that Allah should have created something in another form, in another manner. Instead of giving us feet, He should have given us wheels. Instead of giving us 2 eyes, should have given us 4 eyes. Maybe we could have seen. We could have had 360 vision. Again, people would make all types of claims, but the response to that would be Allah has made and created everything in a way which allows them to function according to their needs and their necessities. So we are able to achieve our task and the purpose for which Allah has created us in a way that that is correct, and we are fully able to do what we need to do. So there is no flaw in how Allah Ta'ala has created us. That does not mean we have a fault. We are able to fulfill our functions. If a person continues to dispute and challenges, then the challenge is for that person to produce a whole being from nothing, and then to prove this new thing that he has created, the new model or the something that he has made, it is flawless, it has no faults in it. Then this will be the only way that to prove such a person that Allah's creation is existence. So it is inconsistent. So if somebody wants to say, really prove that Allah has made something that isn't right, then the challenge would be, okay, if you think you're any way better, make something from out of nothing, make it, produce it, don't copy any other example, make something from beginning, and then prove it that it's flawless, it has no faults in it. It will be impossible for anybody to able to do that, and only that that will silence such a person who makes such foolish claims. If they cannot prove, then they should give in and agree and admit that Allah's creation is flawless. Then Allah mentions in the next ayat, ثُمَّ ارْجِعِ الْبَصَرِ. Again, further challenges. Allah Ta'ala, as you know, is really asking us to reflect and look into it. Do your homework and really do your research into this. Don't abandon it. ثُمَّ ارْجِعِ الْبَصَرَ كَرَّتَيْنِ يَنْقَلِبْ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ خَاسِئًا وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ. Now, return your vision again a second time, and يَنْقَلِبْ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ. Your vision again will return to you humbled and worn out. So again, khasi means to repel, and here it means that you will be humbled. You will notice your position on earth, meaning as a humble slave of Allah Ta'ala, that you will be humbled by the greatness that you study. And again, those previous in the ayats that we've studied, where we looked at the stars and the planets and the Milky Ways and all those great systems, in comparison to what's out there in the great space, our earth is something absolutely small and little and next to nothing. And again, referring back to when we did Surah Fatiha and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, if you can recall, we watched that little clip in class, which is zoomed out from Earth, and it showed the different types of stars and planets outside and their size in comparison to Earth, and then the whole solar system and the universe, and how many light years it was. And it was just absolutely mind-boggling just watching that small clip. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator and the maintainer of all that and everything which is existing. We only hear of a planet or a star exploding in a far distance space, and NASA, through the Hubble telescope, will they be able to capture some images of it. But really, what life exists therein and what creation of Allah Ta'ala maybe possibly exists there, only Allah knows better. And Allah is the one who's controlling all of that, and He nourishes them, He maintains them, He provides them their rizq and sustenance. And everything that we see, that we know from our research, one thing to know, that all of it is beneath the first sky. And what's above the first sky, and then the second sky, and the third sky, and Allah mentions khalaqa sab'a samawatin. It's not just one sky that's what Allah's created. We have not even totally explored everything beneath the first sky. Only now in the 21st century, we are beginning to realize there's something which is known as black matter and dark matter and black holes. So again, we've not even totally fully understood all the things that Allah has created in this first sky, under the first sky, let alone that we can consider and even contemplate what Allah has above the other heavens and skies, and what is contained in between them. And then all the angels and all the other forces and the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we cannot imagine. And when we see that greatness, and then we look at ourselves, this small human on earth, then in comparison to everything else, we're like a small insect that's crawling on the land. And again, this is what the research of that or that returning the vision and researching and contemplating and doing tafakkur and tadabbur, it would lead you to ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا. You will return humble, recognizing that you're just like an ant on earth. You know, that if you were to explain to an ant whose entire life revolves around a couple of squares kilometers, you know, his entire life is in that small area. If you were to explain to that ant that, you know, this is just one town in a big city, and there's this and one, and then you when you go further on from the city, you will find many different cities, and when you combine the cities together, you end up, it makes a country, and then when you have lots of countries together, it makes a continent, and when you have lots of continents together and you look at the entire globe, that's our planet Earth. And our planet Earth is only one planet in the whole solar system, and there's 9 planets, so there's so many, you know. By the time you reach that, the ant will drop down dead. It will not be able to absorb all of that, because it's only used to living its life in an area, in a region which is possibly few kilometers, a few square kilometers. So similarly, when we research everything which is within the skies, you know, what Allah Ta'ala has created, then, you know, you return back thinking, you know, I'm just like that ant on earth. And this is the ayat, يَنْقَلِبْ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ خَاسِئًا, that after you've explored all that and you've seen all that and the vastness of all of that, you will recognize and understand that you are nothing but a humble slave of Allah Ta'ala, وَهُوَ حَسِيرٌ, and that your research will be such mind-boggling for you, so much for you to, you know, that you will be tired and you will be worn out. You can't comprehend the total greatness of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So khasa in Arabic, it was used to shoo a dog away from you, to kick a rock in a dog's direction so it turns away humbled, knowing that it should not be arrogant, etc. Hasir, worn out, tired, and exhausted. It was used by the Arabs to stare at some things, at something, so your eyes get tired. Actually, so when you're staring at something in such a way that when you walk away, you're extremely, you know, you're tired, you're worn out. Humiliated, humbled, and you will notice your place on earth as a humble slave of Allah Ta'ala, as a slave who is total dependent upon Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. No matter how hard you try in searching for faults and flaws, you will only wear yourself out and will be humble to admit and accept the existence of Ar-Rahman, even if this is contrary to your wishes. So you have to conclude, after a person who researches all these things and looks at the evidence, he has to conclude that there is a creator of all of this, and the creator of all of this is Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and a person will have to admit that, even though if he doesn't want to. And if despite still a person doesn't want to admit, then that won't be due to anything, any evidence. It'll be due to his stubbornness or his own choice, which again Allah has given him, that he is not forced in this dunya to believe in Allah Ta'ala, but he's warned of the consequences of any decision that he makes. Keep on reflecting, at times consistently without pause, at times after some delay. Your vision will return back to you changed. Your perspective will change if you look often and reflect, and you are sincere, truthful, and open-minded. So again, as mentioned, that in the first mention, Allah mentions فَرْجِعِ الْبَصَرِ. Keep on doing it over and over again. And here, ثُمَّ رْجِعِ الْبَصَرِ. So thumma denoting that maybe take some pauses in between. You'll get tired, you won't be able to research so much. Research some, you know, do some muta'ala, then have a break, have some pause, give it some rest. Sometime later, after a couple of days, research again and look into it and reflect. And when you keep on doing this over time, you will eventually come to the conclusion that the creator of all of this is Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Maybe another lesson that we learn from here, those of us that are involved in the work of da'wah, where we at times we feel that we live and we share the sky with our fellow citizens in this country, and we are all at the moment going through a difficult time. And we have genuine people outside who are good, but they are not blessed with Iman. That at times, how can we invite them to Iman, to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, so that they are protected from the fire of Jahannam? So one of the ways possibly to do is at times speak to them about Allah and Akhirat, and then give them time to reflect and ponder. Don't overdo it. give them time to pause, and then maybe afterwards sometime again invite them or share some things with them. So with pauses, not constantly one after another, at times share some things with them, then give them time to reflect and ponder. If after all this evidence you decide to disbelieve, then this is only due to your stubbornness and not due to evidence or facts. Then in the next ayat, Allah mentions, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينِ وَأَعْتَدْنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ. And certainly we have beautified. So زَيَّنَّا, we have beautified. السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيا, the sky of the nearest, the sky of dunya, or the nearest sky, be with masabiha, with stars, with lamps, so meaning stars. وَجَعَلْنَاهَا, and we have made it rujuman, meaning we have made those stars as uh, missiles, or لِلشَّيَاطِينَ, for the devils. وَأَعْتَدْنَا, and we have prepared lahum, for them, عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ, the punishment of the blaze. So again, in this ayat, again, I've put some pictures in here, and again, they've got nothing to do in terms of the tafsir of these ayats, but it's just to help you memorize these words. So zayyanna, to beautify something. So here you've got somebody who is decorating eggs, and then waja'alna is another verb here, we have made. So when you look at the picture here where somebody's cutting a piece of paper, and you've got steps on there, 1 2 3 4, that you have when you're making something, you follow certain steps. So again, ja'alna, meaning we have created. Ja'alnaha rujuman lishayatin, as a punishment, as missiles, meaning as a form of punishment for the shayateen. Wa a'tadna, and we have prepared, just like how you have a checklist, we have prepared for them adhab as-sa'ir, the punishment of the blaze of a fire. Now here, one thing to mention, that when we recite these ayat, it's important we learn the tajweed of the Quran, and we recite the Quran properly, because slight changes can make difference in the meanings. And again here, for example, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا, again this is with alif madda, with alif, so it's nun alif zabar, na, you stretch it. Similarly here, وَجَعَلْنَا, and then in here, وَأَعْتَدْنَا, these are all stretched. If you were to read وَجَعَلْنَا, it would totally change the meaning. If you were to read وَأَعْتَدْنَا, it would totally change the meaning. So even here is zayyanna. If you were to take out the alif, and if you were to read zayyana, it would change the meaning. So walaqad zayyana means we beautified. I mean, if you say zayyana, he beautified, and here waja'alna, we made. And if you were to read it without the alif and read it as ja'alna, it would change the meaning to say they made, meaning those women they made. And a'tadna, if you were to drop the alif and to read it as a'tadna, it would mean those women they prepared. So it would totally change the meaning, and it would not fit into the ayat. So here there's something to know, that these words, these verbs go through a gardan, a Arabic conjugation. And again, somebody who's studying tafsir, he should know what a gardan is, especially if he wants to be a mujtahid, a person who feels that he can understand the Quran by himself and the hadith himself. Then the minimum that that person should know, again, we'll discuss what the scholars say, but he should be aware of these types of small changes. A person cannot be a mujtahid by reading the translation of a Quran or by reading the summary of somebody. We will say he's possessed some knowledge, he's acquired some knowledge through translation, but to become a mujtahid, far from it. Hence we find many scholars, even right now in our time, we have great scholars who have who dedicated their entire lives to Quran and Hadith and the teachings of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we never found them to say that they were in the status of mujtahid, and they always found comfort and security and peace in saying that we would rather follow the verdicts issued by greater scholars before us. So again, this is something which is known as gardan. Again, this is something I just quickly gripped off the internet and have put it into the slide, that it gives different types of levels, different types of stages each one of these words can actually go through, and I don't intend to go through it at all, but again, there's some here. For example, one word, for example, just the way you have here, fa'altu, it can be changed into af'alu, and then fa'altu, goes through fa'altu, fa'alta, fa'alti, fa'ala, fa'alat, and it has different types of orders it goes through. Each one of these Arabic words can go into them. Now, which one is it? That is something for a person who studied the Quran in great depth, then he would need to understand this. For us, we're just trying to understand the basic meanings of the Quran. We don't intend to label ourselves as mujtahids and great scholars and alims and allamas or muftis, or we're going to be giving any fatwa. We're just trying to understand what is it that Allah Ta'ala is saying to us in the Quran, so we can live a life in a way which pleases Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We don't aim to be allamas for other people. We're just trying to understand our deen for ourselves. So again, it's not something that we're going to be going into, and the structure of our course of tafsir doesn't allow us to go there. However, one thing that I've mentioned here, be careful when you're acquiring ilm. Don't rely on books and internet. Always learn from a teacher. For example, even with this, Grant got this from the internet, but there were some mistakes that I found in here. That here it says zamir munfasil, but they've written it as attached pronoun. This is not attached pronoun. Munfasil means some things which is separate, detached. It's not, it's attached. And here you have zamir muttasil, detached. They've got this the wrong way around. Anyway, so that's a small mistake in there. There are many different patterns of conjugation: maldi and mudari, ma'ruf and majhul, amr and nahi. We've got no time to go into that. But again, this is the depth of the Arabic language that a person would be expected to study just before he even becomes an alim. Knowing about these conjugations is a complete subject in itself. Ulama state to just to become a mufassir, not even a mujtahid, to become a mufassir, a person who is a commentator of the Quran, you need to master about 15 different subjects. So again, alhamdulillah, we are fortunate there are scholars out there who have done this, and we find a scholar whom we can trust and whom we know that they are righteous, they are pious, and once we find such scholars, we should try to hold on to them, and we should try to acquire our ilm from them, knowing that they have the correct sanad, and they are known people, they are not unknown people. Rujuman, ayat, Allah mentions that we have made them as missiles to pelt, throw rocks, shooting stars, and comets, meteors. The shayateen used to climb to the sky and attempt to hear the conversations of the angels who would be writing and discussing the destiny of the people on earth. They would relay what they had heard, mixed with lies, to their human friends, fortune tellers, soothsayers, etc. So before the Prophet ﷺ, the jinnat and they used to climb on top of each other, trying to hear the conversations of what the angels are talking about, and they would relay that, mix it with some lies, and tell it to the fortune tellers who would go around people to try to predict the future for them. So Allah mentions that these stars that we have created, that with the sky that we have created, we've beautified it and we've decorated it with different types of lamps and stars. And these stars are giving two purposes. One is beautifying the sky, and at the same time they are used as missiles or as a punishment to repel those shayateen away. And for those shayateen or jinnat who, again, a creation of Allah Ta'ala, who just like ants are mukallaf and they need to worship Allah Ta'ala, those jinnat and shayateen who do such a thing, Allah Ta'ala mentions regarding them, وَأَعْتَدَنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ, that for them we have created a punishment of the blaze. This was stopped at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, how Allah mentions in Surah Jinn, وَأَنَّا لَمَسْنَا السَّمَاءَ فَوَجَدْنَاهَا مُلِئَتْ حَرَسًا شَدِيدًا وَشُهُبًا, that the jinnat, after hearing the Quran from the Prophet ﷺ, those jinnat, when they went to their people, they said, and we have sought to reach to the heaven, but found it filled with powerful guards and burning flames. That once the wahi had started, the Prophet ﷺ was made a Nabi of Allah Ta'ala, then after that they were no longer able to reach out to the skies, and it was stopped. As-sa'ir, a flaming and an increasing fire. So if these devils, jinn, were to ask, how will they be punished in the hellfire if they themselves are made of fire? Then the answer to this is very simple. Why do we feel pain when slapped by another person? Because even though they are made from the same substance as us, so it causes pain. So even if you were to slap yourself really hard, you'll feel pain. And your hand, which is made from the same substance that you face, why is it that you would feel pain? Or if somebody was to get a muddy rock or a lump of mud and to throw it at us, or a lump of clay and throw it at us, it would hurt, it would cause us pain. So why is it that we are made out of clay and mud would still hurt us? So this is not really an argument that holds weight, that if we are made from fire, then how will fire burn us? Again, things change through their processes. So again, that's an argument that doesn't hold any weight. Just like how the answer is that if you were to slap somebody with your skin, why does it hurt them? This surah has a strong theme of accountability, and we begin to see a change in tone from this verse. In the previous ayat, it was Khalqir Rahman, the creation of Rahman, the most merciful. How now we find some firmness being expressed in this surah, that those وَأَعْتَدَنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ, those who try to do this and they try to reach out to the skies and step over the limits, try to do things which is not befitting for them to do. Allah Ta'ala says, I am also a Lord who dishes out punishment to people who do not follow me. The disbelievers consider death as a way out from the hardships of this life and an end to all debts, hardships, and troubles. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Quran to confirm that such a mindset was false and that we would be responsible for every single action of ours. The disbelievers tried to flee from this message because they did not want to experience the anxiety of being responsible for their evil actions. The surahs from this Juz Bara onwards emphasize this accountability. So if somebody ever feels that if I were to die, it will be the end of everything, all the hardships and the difficulties that we feel, that get away from it, just kill yourself, commit suicide, or let somebody kill you, that really is not a reality, because in the akhirat there is a accountability that a person will be held account to, who will be made to stand in the court of Allah Ta'ala. So hence even death is not an avenue from where a person can flee from. There is no fleeing from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We will be made to stand in the court of Allah Ta'ala, and there will be an accountability. There will be accountability for every single action and every single deed. The warnings and threats in this surah are a mercy because they awaken people from their deep sleep of misguidance. So again, so when this tone that we notice, which is changing in this ayat, it's not that Allah is not merciful, but in fact, this is part of His mercy that Allah Ta'ala mentions these verses to us. So it awakens a person who is lazy and sust and who does not follow the commands of Allah Ta'ala, that He's warned that, look, if you fall behind and you don't do what you need to do, then you will be hound, you will be held accountable. And this is what we find in our current circumstance, that we are faced with the coronavirus, and it's spreading from the east to the west, and it's traveled the globe, and even let alone countries, it's traveled continents, it's traveled across borders, it's traveled across oceans, and it's reached the other side. Allahu Akbar. This is Allah Ta'ala showing His might, that there is no fleeing from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. This is how Allah mentions here that zayyana sama ad-dunya, we have created things within the sky which are a source of beauty, and they make it beautiful, and they make it, they decorate it, but that same item Allah Ta'ala can use it as a source of punishment for others. And similarly within dunya, that Allah has created various different types of things. If used in the correct way, they are a mercy and they are a blessing from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. But if abused, then Allah Ta'ala can turn the tides, and Allah Ta'ala can hold people accountable for their deeds and for their actions. I'm just a little bit conscious here. I've only got 2 minutes remaining in this session. Zoom has a limit on it of 40 minutes, and I think we've almost used up that time. We've only got about 2 minutes left, so we will be finishing, and we'll end it here, and then inshallah we'll continue the rest on next Monday. Inshallah, we'll continue with the next night next Monday, and until that time lapse out, I'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about Corona. That this is really a wake-up call for us, that when we had all the ni'mats and the blessings of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and it seemed as though we felt that we were in total control and we could do as we wish. Allah Ta'ala is teaching us a lesson here, that if I want, I can take the things away from you in a subtle way that you have no control over it. How before we felt that we were in total control of our lives and we could do as we wish, and now we're faced with a challenge and we don't know how long it's going to remain for. We've been told that this lockdown will be a couple of weeks, or it'll be reviewed every week, and we've been told it could last up to 6 months. But deep inside, those people who are making those statements even know that even within 6 months, they don't know what's going to happen. It could continue, it could stop. Again, there's not even a cure for it, despite all the technological advancements and everything which is available to us. Like we marvel at the success that people have reached. Man has landed on the moon, and man has been able to explore the galaxies and the Milky Ways, and now we are finding black matter and dark matter and black holes, and we're going from strength to strength. But Allahu Akbar, all of that strength is getting nowhere, and we're unable to stop something which is not even visible to the naked eye, so small in terms of size, but yet it's literally left everybody stunned. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is showing that He is in control. It's only right and befitting that we turn to Him and we ask Him for His mercy, and we mend our ways, and we live out in our life in a way which pleases Him. May Allah ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to live a pious and a noble life, and may Allah give us the tawfiq to remain